Welcome to the Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
This is going to be our hopefully self-contained, somewhat review
Self-contained.
of Ahsoka Episode 5. Spoiler heavy. There's a lot. Okay, I'm going to start with this. I'm ballistically pissed off that we did not get a in-theaters viewing of this like everywhere else in the freaking States did.
Right.
Like, Phoenix was one of the only major cities that did not have this.
Right. Phoenix doesn't exist. It's the 5th largest city in the country, people. 5th.
Yeah.
Number 5.
It was like Chicago, New York, LA, San Francisco, St. Louis, Miami. I mean, it's like I'm not driving 7 hours to go to freaking. Well, maybe I should have. Okay. 1. Spoilers. 2. The AMTP needs to suck it up and pay their people. So there is what we discussed last week, which I thought that a lot of this episode would be the world between worlds stuff,
right?
And there's a ton there. We could spend 3 hours on just what was going on in that the world between worlds, and everything that was going on between Anakin and Ahsoka.
Yeah, I would like to say that I appreciate they did enough so that the people like me who didn't watch the show sort of understand what's going on, but didn't get quite as weird as the show did with it, so that you understood it. It wasn't time travel at all.
I until I'm told differently, my current headcanon is that really wasn't the world between worlds. It was the construct that the Force put together to teach Ahsoka that she is more than just a warrior.
Sure, and she's been there before, right? She's been to the world between worlds.
They used some place mystical that she knew, and they used her master to teach her the final lesson.
Yeah,
which is why we got Ahsoka the White by the end of the episode.
Yep, she turned into Gandalf the White.
Dave Filoni has said Ahsoka is Gandalf, like from jump.
Yep.
Like that. He has art that he drew of Ahsoka and Gandalf together. Like she is Star Wars Gandalf. We have all of that stuff, and then we have the real world stuff. Real world stuff. And then the Purgles. That's why I wanted to see this episode in the big screen.
Yeah.
Because they looked amazing.
They did.
The ships coming out of the clouds up to the Purgles.
Yeah.
And just
into the Purgle stream. Why did they need all those teeth? That was a lot of teeth. And they're super sharp.
For eating the gas, essentially. They eat gas to power back and forth.
They need no teeth whatsoever. They don't need teeth.
Let's the emotional kickoff of this episode was Hera landing at the map location and her walking around and not finding anybody, and then Jason coming out and saying, "Can I come out and play now?" And stay with Chopper.
Can her scanner get a little smaller? Like they're a technical civilization, and this thing, she's carrying it around under her.
I'm trying to remember, and I'm sure new rock stars will point it out, or Star Wars Explained. But I think that scanner is the one they used at the tower at Yavin 4 when everybody's flying out, and there's that one guy in the tower, and he's holding something.
No, I think it looks more like a speed radar gun.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
When he goes,
I know I've seen it.
It's like backpack size. It's giant. Yeah. Can't we make it like the one that the Star Trek gets? The
shoulder strap one.
Yeah, it's like this
with
big.
the little microphone that they got in the 60s. It was
60s, tape recorder size.
But her finding Hu Yang and him holding the helmet and just saying they never stayed together, they never listened, they should have stayed together, was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
He's a droid He shouldn't have these emotions, but he does because he's 25,000 fucking years old.
Right.
And the two people that he cares about the most in the world right now can't listen to him for 5 seconds.
Right. I mean, to be fair, he's snarky.
He is snarky.
He's cranky.
But as soon as Jason came out of the ship, I leaned over to her. Actually, I just started talking to the TV. Is Jason going to be the one to bring her back, to bring Ahsoka back from the world between worlds? That wasn't necessarily wrong.
Right. But he's the only Force sensitive person there.
Right.
Besides, obviously, Ahsoka. So it makes sense that. And again, being somebody. Now, I knew that Jason was Force sensitive because his dad was. He was a Jedi. But for people that haven't seen the show, it helped kind of explain.
And
who
they
he
said
was.
it, and they plainly said it later on.
Yeah, they said that he was
when Carson was like questioning what Hera was doing.
Yeah,
and Hu Yang was like, his dad was a Jedi.
Yeah,
so he has abilities.
And
he's like, okay,
yeah, okay, that answers
yeah,
that.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I'm glad that they, like you were saying, throughout this show, explaining deep, difficult concepts that is Star Wars at times with the weird stuff. The way they've been explaining it is approachable by those who have never watched that stuff, or they're just they just watched the movies and they heard about the show and they're watching it on on the weekend, or they're waiting to binge it or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still like the show and understand what's going on without having watched Clone Wars or Rebels. Now, I would not have known that the scene when Ahsoka is in the whatever it is she's in, and she's smaller, she's younger, with Anakin, I would not have known that was the Clone Wars.
I need to look it up. I'm pretty sure that's either from the Clone Wars movie or like episode 3 or 4 of the first season of the Clone Wars. Actually, that might be that part of that stretch, because they do. It's because it's George Lucas. He can't do things in order. Like the whole first season is in order, and then they go back in time for like 4 episodes or 5 episodes in season 2, but they don't say anything. They just like, here it is, and then and then you start up again like episode 6 or whatever.
Right.
And moving on. So it's somewhere in that kind of conversation where that's happening. But it sets the emotional tone for this episode.
Yeah.
The fact that Hu Yang is having a moment of, this is bad.
Yeah.
And Hera going, this is bad. Because they're the only two people that are really present in where it makes sense. You have to set this emotional tone, this emotional beat to get everybody in line for what the rest of this episode's going to be.
Right. Because nobody else. I mean, they're comrades. They're the ones that they fly around with, so they care.
Right.
I mean, everybody else is like, I mean, they care, but they don't. Well, they're not emotionally connected to them.
Yeah. Some confirmation from last week. Brendan Wayne's character, the X-Wing pilot, who Brendan Wayne is the one in the Mando suit for most of the Mandalorian. He lived. There was questions last week if he made it or not made it. There was three X-Wings in this episode, and they only showed 2 at the end of the episode last week. So there could be some like, where'd that extra one come from? But I don't care. I don't care. He's still alive.
There seem to have been extra people, because there was Carson, there was the girl, and then there was another guy, because those are the 2 that got
Ahsoka
out of the water.
Yeah.
So
that's 3. And there was 3 X-Wings flying around.
But there
was 5 that came with them.
Yeah.
2 got destroyed last week.
Right.
So the one that we weren't really sure if Brendan Wayne's one made it or not.
Okay. I guess
they showed Carson last week.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
So okay. We could spend 3 hours on the world between worlds. I'm gonna do my very best to just what it is. again, I'm thinking headcanon-wise until it's explained the other way. This is the Force trying to teach Ahsoka the lesson that she is more than just the warrior. She needs to stay alive. She needs to be there for the Force because she is the light side of the Force. She is no Jedi, but she is the idea of what the Jedi were supposed to be.
Right.
That lost their way.
Right. And I feel like that has weighed on her, and she even says it to Anakin that, you know, if I am everything you have taught me, everything that you are, then doesn't that make me Vader, essentially?
Yes.
I mean, she doesn't say that, but that's, where she's going. And you've always kind of felt that with her, like she felt, and it's not something she's ever said, but she's always kind of come across that in the back of her mind, she could turn. And she's just waiting for that thing that's going to make it happen. And this, I feel like, centered her, taught her, because she's compassionate about the people that are dying because of her commands. So, it's showing her right there that you are a compassionate person, and Anakin never really was.
Anakin was.
He was intense.
It was intense. I love that, by the way, from Hu Yang. Anakin was a very passionate person. Even Obi-Wan tells that to Leia, that he was a passionate person.
But passion and compassion are two different things.
Right. That's very true.
Empathy, or
But as he said in this episode, I was trained to be a warrior, and so I'm training you the way I was told to train, because there was this whole generation of Padawans who got inserted into the war when the war started, and Anakin was one of the ones that was part of that. And so showing Ahsoka, like Ahsoka has been doing this thing since she showed up in the Mandalorian, and then the stuff with the Book of Boba Fett and everything. She has been pushing attachment away.
Yeah.
She spent all of that time with the Mandalorian telling him, are you doing this for you, or are you doing this for the child?
Right.
And then we come to here, and she talks about how she pushed Sabine away, and Hera having to be the one, like, no, you guys need to be together. You're better together. Hu Yang, you're better together. But she saw what happened to Anakin when he was so emotionally attached to everyone. He was attached to Ahsoka. He was attached to Padme. He was attached to Obi-Wan. And so that attachment is not wrong. It's when you allow that attachment to control you, your decisions, taking their agency away because you don't want them to get hurt. Padme, like all this
his
stuff.
mom. I mean,
his
he
mom,
kills an entire village because of his mom.
And so the lesson, at least for me, is reminding Ahsoka that you are a compassionate person.
Yeah.
You can be caring and loving and attached to these people and have them be part of your life, but you still need to allow them to be their own person, to have their own agency. And that's what that whole fight, both at the beginning and the end of that montage of the Clone Wars, was all about. Was she beat Anakin? She beat Clone Wars. She beat Revenge of the Sith Anakin with the same move that she gets him with in Rebels and breaks that side of the helmet of the face. And then and then he's like, I still have so much more to teach you, and breaks it, and that's how we go into the Clone Wars stuff. Then the fight at the end, she beats him again and has a chance to kill him with his own sword. But she has compassion. She remembers, I am a compassionate person,
right?
And I want to live because I'm choosing my own agency. I'm choosing my own path. I want to live,
right. And she, like, he's all turning into Darth. He's got the red eyes and everything, like you see him, before he goes into the lava pits. So, it's her opportunity again. She's been so afraid that she is going to ultimately turn into what Anakin turned into, and she pushes people away because she doesn't want to hurt them or whatever when the time comes, because she's got it in her brain that it's just going to happen.
Yep.
And then the time comes where she could have killed the turning into Darth Anakin, totally justified stopping. I mean, he's not real, but ultimately stopping, the entire reign of Darth Vader.
Right.
And she didn't. So it proves to herself she's not him. She's not. It's not going to happen. You are not going to turn into him.
You are. One of the reasons I love just the simple teenage version of Ahsoka placing her hand on the clone trooper.
Yeah.
It's not said, but it is a representation of who Ahsoka is through all of the Clone Wars, through all of Rebels, through everything. The reason that when she comes back and they go to the Siege of Mandalore and she tries to defeat Maul, which I love that they went to the Siege of Mandalore. Anakin's like, I don't remember this. I'm like, you weren't around.
It was after you.
Which it broke me for a second when one of the Mandalorians walked by with the Maul horns. I'm like, wait a minute, we went from Clone Wars. But because she showed so much compassion on a regular basis when she came back, her unit that was led by Rex all painted their armor to match her colors, and they all have the clone helmets all have the orange face with the white markings like her face.
Yeah,
and I don't have the helmet. It's one of the few trooper helmets that I actually want is that one, because it means so much. It means so much. There's this whole unit of clones who love her, not because she's their general or their commander or whatever, is that she was one of the people during the war who stood up for the clones, who cared about the clones dying, was there beside them when things went bad or when things went good. And when she always passed the buck to, we wouldn't have won this battle without the clones, without Rex, without Fives, without Heavy, with all those people. And so that representation there of just that simple hand touch was just like, are you kidding me? But the whole, it wasn't like spoon fed to the people. It wasn't. It wasn't this like, this is her spirit quest. This is her.
Yeah.
We were talking last week. I was saying that this was going to be her Balrog again with the Gandalf references.
Yep.
This is going to be her Balrog, and it wasn't. It was her Vision quest.
Yeah.
This was the Force coming to her and saying, "No, you are a good person.
Yeah.
And if you're a good person, you need to stay alive to help the galaxy right now."
Yeah. Yep.
And I loved some of the conversations. If this is really Anakin from Revenge of the Sith, does she tell him that he turns into Vader? Like, there was a lot of conversations that were going on this week, which was actually good conversation. It wasn't being dickies or whatever. But it was definitely a moment of let's the audience just absorb what's being shown and said to us,
right,
without spoon feeding it.
Right. And if you get it, if you do the deep dive kind of like we are, and get the undertones or the under meaning, cool. But if not, it was cool sword fighting.
Yep.
Light sword fighting.
And Anakin changing how he fought, especially Hayden changing how he fought, because he fought much more like Clone Wars Anakin in the first fight, and in the second fight he was very robotic, like Vader.
Yeah.
And that was something I pointed out during the Kenobi series, is that Hayden was able to switch back and forth between the two styles from when he is Vader, from when he wasn't Vader, when they were doing the flashbacks and stuff. We need more Hayden. Like, I put him in the MCU. I want him as Doctor Doom. Like, I've said it. I'm going to say it again. He should be Doom. He is really, really good actor who kind of got pigeonholed because of what happened with Star Wars. He's been in some other stuff that just didn't hit as well, but he's a good actor, and he showed it in this episode. He showed it in Kenobi, and he's an amazing person.
Yeah, and some of the other stuff that we've seen him in, it wasn't that he wasn't good. It was more like editing. That
I liked Jumper, but it was just they were trying to do too much in that movie.
Yeah,
we're gonna go on a.
There was a lot going on.
Welcome to the Jumper breakdown.
Hayden talk.
Hayden talk. Okay, so like I said, we go on for forever with the World Between Worlds stuff, and we will. We'll probably talk about that again next week and the week after and the week after. So then we have all the real world stuff, the world stuff. Hera having Jason trying to get her attention, and Chopper trying to get her attention, and Carson giving her attention, and her like having to prioritize conversations, and then Jason finally like, Mom, there's something wrong with the waves. And as soon as he said that, Hera like, Carson, you need to shut up. and he is right. Carson is completely right. The fleet is coming, and they're in deep poop.
Yeah.
But my son, who I know who has abilities, is calling me to tell me something. And her standing there and listening to the waves and hearing the lightsaber fight between Anakin and Ahsoka, that is not that Hera is force sensitive and has been the entire time and whatever. Blah, 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 blah. That's not that. That is meditating, allowing yourself to hear everything that's going on.
Right.
And Jason is intuitively doing that because he's force sensitive.
Right.
But Hera has to stop.
Yeah.
Stop everything that she's doing. Focus.
And focus. Yeah.
And so I think that might be a contentious thing for some people, but that's how I saw it.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
How I saw it. And then them doing all the flights, and then Hera kind of like, Carson's not wrong. We're not finding anything.
Yeah.
And then
Chopper
figuring it out, and that was when Ahsoka won her fight with Vader Anakin, not Vader, but Vader Anakin. There's so many different versions.
There is.
And the water, that effect of the water seeping up, it was so cool. Like, wasn't the coolest shot in the whole episode. It was Vader Anakin and Ahsoka fighting in the smoke, which was just
yeah. Well, and I think the point there was that there wasn't anything to find when they were all flying around until she was done. And then the Force released her back to the surface.
Even
whatever.
Even Hera's like asking, people just don't disappear, and Hu Yang's like, well, not entirely accurate. I was trying to do my best David Tennant, but it just wasn't working. So even he's like, there's a possibility that this actually happened. Now they're still trying to figure out what was going on with Sabine at this point in time.
Right.
But her asking about Ahsoka and Sabine, and only really Hu Yang is thinking about Ahsoka.
Right.
When that kind of whole comes together. We get the rescue. Ahsoka takes a nap.
Yeah. We get Ahsoka the White.
And Ahsoka the White shows up. So from here on, I didn't expect to see until the next episode. So
there's 8.
There's 8.
Yeah, so we only have 3 left.
I know.
And we need to get to 3.
I think the final shot of the show is Ezra showing up. There'll be a season 2 that will lead into the war, which will be the Filoni War, the Filoni movie.
Right.
So I thought that's where the cutoff. Ahsoka wakes up. She's on her ship. We're ready. We're good to go. We're going to figure out the next episode how we're going to follow. Oh no! Ahsoka used an ability that she has not shown outside of one episode, I believe, so far, and that is like the Echo memory of using the Force. You're able to remember the things that happened with an object or in a spot of whatever it is. It is something straight out of Fallen Order and Survivor. Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor. That's something that Cal Kestis. That's actually one of his main Force abilities. And so it's not something that Ahsoka, I believe, has shown to have done in Clone Wars or Rebels. But like Anakin said, you're never done learning. And so it is possible. It is a Force ability that she has picked up, possibly from Cal. Because they're all existing in the universe right now as we sit, too.
And she did seem to have to work at it. I mean, it wasn't like she picked it up and went, "Oh,
yeah."
She had to think about it.
She had to tune herself into it.
Yeah,
and she was able to. And I love the scene, the way they set the scene. She had the half sphere in her hand with all the gears exposed. That prop is amazing. I would love to have it.
Yeah,
in this
it
film.
is. It's very cool.
She holds it and they pan back, and then they take the camera all the way around her as she listens to everything that happened with Balin and Sabine,
right,
and them leaving and everything,
right? Yeah,
and then they have a crisis of conscience of I don't know how we're gonna follow. I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do. Oh, by the way, the fleet's here.
Yeah.
So to add to all the problems that they've lost their friends. Ahsoka's been napping. Now the fleet's here to arrest Hera and Ahsoka.
Right. Well, she doesn't know that until she talks to Mon. She's like, "Oh, I got this," and she goes and talks to Mon, and Mon's like, "Did you find anything? No. Well, then you're in a lot of trouble."
Yeah, and I get some people are gonna maybe I'm on Mothma, but I get it. She's now she is the Chancellor right now, and she really has to play both sides. She really has to play the line.
Yeah.
And she can't give favors to her friends. That's what happened with the Empire.
Right.
And so she really can't give favors to her friends unless those favors are those friends presenting evidence for their actions.
Right. She can't just I mean, she couldn't, regardless of that, just because she's in this position now where if she exposes, if she shows any crack that she's favoriting, one side, or the side she's not supposed to be on. I mean, not necessarily sides, but the team that she's not supposed to be on, then she'll blow her cover. Right, and that completely wipes out the whole point of her being there, is so she can feed information to everybody else.
She is in a position right now as Chancellor, not just Senator anymore.
Right,
as Chancellor.
Right,
she's in a position where she has to be the most beige down the middle person.
Right,
and it,
or she'll get found out.
And she will lose any resemblance of power that she has, where she has the ability to give that information out.
Right.
And I think that's a nuance that happens in the books. And this is one of those times where me as all the stuff, listener or reader or whatever, consumer, that's the word. I know that. But everybody's memory of Mon right now, if you didn't read the books, is how much of a badass she was in Andor.
Right.
And so, and some people are like, well, this is going on during Andor, right? Because Mon Mothma's there. And so there's that kind of conversation of, no, this is actually going on
after.
This is going on after all the war has happened. The Civil War has happened. This is going on during the Mandalorian Season 3 and the Book of Boba Fett. And so there's that reminder.
So, but that's interesting because isn't she in the cave at the end of, what's the movie after Andor?
Rogue One.
Rogue One. Isn't she in? No. Doesn't she talk to that?
Yes, she is that's Yavin 4.
Yeah.
And she talks to Bail, and Bail's the one who's like, I've got a guy that I can call for help. Yes, but all of that happens.
No, when they're in the cave, when R2 and C3PO show up.
Yeah,
because they're all taken
that's
off.
Yavin 4.
Okay.
That's the rebel base in Yavin 4.
Okay.
And she, at that point in time, so this is one of those times where the Star Wars telling story out of order gets blurry. So in season 3 of Rebels, she denounces the Emperor and resigns as senator to lead the rebel cause. And in that process, the Ghost crew is the one who saves her.
Okay.
And she broadcasts out to the galaxy with the help of the Ghost crew that the Emperor is corrupt and we need to fight against him.
Okay.
That all happens before Andor. No, that all happens before Rogue One. So Andor is happening.
Andor, she's a senator.
She's the senator. She renounces her senatorship, which should be in season 2 of Andor.
Right.
And then Rogue One happens.
Season 3.
Season 2 of Andor.
Season 2? Are we only on 2?
Yeah, we're only getting 2, and they probably would be done with it if people would shut their mouth and pay people.
Right.
But that whole speech is one of the main reasons why I wanted. I'm excited about Andor, because that speech in live action is really highly important, because it's the thing that is the catalyst for a lot of the rebel cells to actually come together. But because of that, she becomes the Chancellor.
Okay.
After the second Death Star is blown up.
Okay.
So that's
so I was thinking she was senator, she was chancellor, and then she became head of the rebels. And the rebels that are in between senator.
We're still Chancellor Palpatine until he dissolves the Senate in the first in A New Hope. It's a background dialogue by one of the Empire guys where he says, oh no, it's Tarkin. The Emperor has dissolved the Senate. Local governors will rule. And so she's long been gone as a senator at that point in time.
Right, okay.
Welcome to Mon Mothma Talk. And again, it's a good question to ask, because we are telling stories out of order.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I love, but also one of the things that's frustrating about Star Wars, is that you're telling this story out of order. And so we had Kenobi, which is is before A New Hope. So that all happens. The Kenobi series happens before A New Hope.
Yep.
And then the next thing we get is Andor, which is also before A New Hope, but it's 5 years before The New Hope. And then the next thing we get...
Right. And then Rogue One, which is like she walks out the door into A New Hope.
Yeah.
Because she hands...
That's Leia, yeah.
They give her,
Yep. And let's talk about the Purgles now that we've done with Mon Mothma talk. Ahsoka did what Ezra did. Ezra saved the Purgles when Hera was still kind of not knowing what they were all doing, and Hera saying to Jason, the stories were true. Jason saying the stories were true that you told me, and Hera said, "Yeah, they saved us." So she's come around to the whole process. So Ezra communed with them and saved them from Hera and Phoenix Squadron. That's the whole. It's a filler episode.
Nothing is ever a filler.
Nothing is ever a filler episode, especially with Dave Filoni. Ahsoka going out on the wing, Ahsoka the White going out on the wing to say hi, and the big one shows up, and they have a talk, and then Carson running interference for the fleet that shows up.
Hey guys, I would like to talk to you about your car's extended warranty.
I expected the Poe Hux.
Joke. Yeah.
That's what I really expected.
Hello, can I speak with General Hux, please?
Armitage Hux, please.
Is he not there? I'll hold. It's fine.
It's about his mother. Yes, they did a Yo Mama joke in Star Wars, and I'm here for all of it. But her communing with the big one, the leader. I guess it's the largest one. It's the leader. That's usually how pack mentality works.
Yeah.
But
The leader of the pack.
And then opens his mouth with the 870 sharp teeth, and Ahsoka banging on the glass. Go park in there. And Huyang's like, will you come inside? Stop going out there.
I was going to walk around inside the Purgle for a while.
But they go in, and Carson's like, okay, so I told you the whales are coming. And then Hera shows up, and she's like, you guys want to move? And then the flock of whales show up. And I love that they let the bridge of the one ship, they stick there and let everybody watch the whales go by.
Yeah.
Because in universe, they're kind of urban legends.
Yeah.
Like there's some legitimacy to it. Yeah. There's some
dragons.
Like deep space freighters have talked about seeing them, whatever, and that's one of those, like, you're at the bar and somebody's like, I saw a Purgle once. Shut up, you've been drinking all day.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those stories. So having all of them watch the Purgles leave was going to give Hera some ammunition when she goes back.
Yep, absolutely.
And then they show them, like, their tails, their tentacle tails all opening up and glowing. And then Ahsoka saying, I will find them. I will find both of them. Is the first confirmation, at least in the show, where she wants to find Sabine and Ezra. It's always been about stopping Thrawn showing up and not bringing Ezra back.
Yeah. And she's been like, I mean, she was kind of forced into this position, right? Because what she was saying, like in the last episode, made complete sense.
Mm-hmm.
If going to get Ezra brings Thrawn back, then we need to not do it.
Right.
That was the point of.
That's completely logical.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes Ezra's sacrifice mean nothing
if they bring him
back. Yeah. But now the tables are turned, right? So Sabine is with them. She was alive, the last she knew on the ship. So you got to go get her. Might as well get Ezra while we're at it, and maybe we'll kill Thrawn.
Try to stop Thrawn before he shows up.
Yeah.
I'm again, headcanon currently is this is a setup for the movie.
Yeah.
But I think we might get a second season of this.
Yeah.
And I really do. I want a second season of this before we get to the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense because I feel like there's only 3 episodes left. We're not going to get a ton of Thrawn, even if he shows up in the next episode.
Yeah.
We're not going to get a ton of Ezra. There were how many seasons of Rebels? 8 or something?
There's 4.
Really?
4 of Rebels and 7 of the Clone Wars.
Oh, it was the Clone Wars. I was thinking it was more. Okay, so, but for people that didn't watch Rebels, you're like, okay, Ezra, who is he? Why do I care?
Yep.
Thrawn, who is he? Why do I care? We need some more time with both of them, especially if Thrawn's going to be a big part of the movie. Like if he's going to be the big bad, or
when they said his name, was it season 2 of The Mandalorian? When they said his name, it sparked something in my mind, and that is the idea of if Thrawn comes back, he can't come back with one ring ship, by the way, and try to retake the Empire.
Right.
So he's going to have to spend time running around,
collecting people,
either collecting resources, taking over for the warlords, or convincing the warlords he's back. And so you can't do that in 3 episodes.
But you
can't do it just in The Mandalorian.
You have, what are they called? When Hera and Ahsoka went to that shipyard, they were all on
the Empire side.
Yeah. I don't. Were they called something?
Imperialist.
Sounds
good. I'm going with it.
Imperial.
Sympathizers.
Yeah. So there's all of them. Yeah. And there's a ton of stuff laying around. We've been talking about that since Mandalorian.
And that's why I was like,
but yeah, he's got to have some time. I mean, he's not going to just show up and everybody's going to gonna
He's not going to
speed in
Avengers
with them,
Assemble.
and so yeah,
He's not going to Avengers Assemble.
yeah,
when he gets there.
Yeah.
There's still imperial units, groups, warlords,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call them, out there who are out there for themselves. They showed that in The Mandalorian, where they had that council of all the imperial officers.
Yeah.
And they were all fighting amongst each other for whatever little scraps that they had. And
Yeah.
a couple of them were like, "No, if Thrawn shows up, he's in charge." And a couple of them like, "Is he even going to show up?" So they're just laying the seeds of doubt within some of them.
Yeah.
And so Thrawn either shows up and gets his people that are his supporters or whatever, his acolytes or whatever you want to call them. They're going to come to his side, and then he may have to go force the others.
Yeah.
So we're going to get a season of Mandalorian, season 4, where a lot of the rumors in the background are going to be there was an imperial battle. 2 warlords fought each other. There was some casualties, but the winner took off with 8 ships, and he showed up with 4. And that I think there's going to be a lot of that kind of conversation. And then if we get a season 2 of Ahsoka, a lot of it I feel like is going to be the conversation of if it's truly to the stage of Ahsoka the White. Why didn't she show up in the sequel era? And so, is there going to be a conversation of her deciding to get away from war, because it's always been about war with her, to get away from that? And if that has to happen, she has to go on a spiritual quest, not just she has to go on
I can't see her stepping away from Thrawn. I mean, I
right,
maybe dying in the war or going into deep hiding like Luke does.
but
she's not a Jedi, so it's not like we're looking for the last Jedi. Well, that was Luke. Ahsoka isn't a Jedi. She could be like Leia. Leia is super force sensitive, but she's off, doing her part, and she could be doing that. I don't know how long her species lives, but
150 years, something like that. And so just the idea of I would love to, even if it's a 4-episode mini arc of her kind of going on this somewhat side mission to kind of find what her final true form meaning is. Yes, she has learned a lot in this episode. And yes, she did get her her vision quest and got, some of her mojo back. But this is not her final form. And if you want to bring the Mortar stuff in, she is the daughter. She is the light side. So do we want to spend time with this conversation of having her go find what the true light is of the Force, and butting up against the darkness and the middle and all that kind of stuff, and having that conversation? And then there's like a call from some Ezra, somebody, saying, "Oh, by the way, Thrawn has rebuilt the Empire.
Yeah,
and we need you to come
yeah,
back."
it's gonna take a minute, so we've got some time.
Yeah.
Probably, 10.
I'm also just projecting because I just want another season of this. I'm bummed it's only 3 episodes left.
Yeah,
I'm really bummed it's only 3 episodes left.
But we have Loki.
And we have Loki, and I will probably go back and rewatch this episode right now. And we're still on Hondo watch. Where's Hondo? I was all over TikTok. I was all over TikTok on Hondo watch, and everybody agreed with me. So we know he's alive. He's at freaking Batu with the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, and he ran into Carson. Carson was standing there. No, I'm thinking of the Mandalorian episode.
Yeah, I know. Hondo was the animatronic.
Oh, okay.
Who's horned alien?
Blue guy.
The blue Nim Nub? No.
Blue guy that was in the bar with Carson and Filoni.
Oh,
and
Zeb. Where's Zeb? Yeah.
Yeah.
We should get. That's also why I think I want to get a second season of Ahsoka, because getting the Ghost Crew back together is just but I think Zeb is gonna show up probably in the next 3 episodes. Like they don't have the ability to make him look that good over a mass amount of time. for the minute and a half that he was on screen last in the Mandalorian, that worked. But to have him an interactive part of the entire cast and crew in live action, that's a lot of stuff to do. And this show looks amazing. So if Zeb shows up on a bigger basis, he doesn't look right, you're gonna lose a lot of the fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so yeah, but Zeb and Hondo, we kind of got Rex. We got at least Tamora as a clone, voicing the piece in the flashback. And I swear Kanan was going to commune with Jason for like a hot second.
I thought so too. But we get Jason instead of Kanan because Kanan's dead. So
yeah,
he'll take his place in the resurrection of the Ghost Crew.
Yeah, absolutely. So let us know what you thought of this episode and our lengthy discussion about it. And we were good. Like we were ticking along. We did a really good job. So let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments down below. Please be nice. It's a requirement around here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, follow us on all the social media stuff: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Links in the description down below. And until next time, cult members, I need a whiskey. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.